hello, ladies. It's our monthly event. So glad to have you tune in with us on tonight. I'm Dr. Latanya Hughes, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Ladies. This is our monthly get together, our live online session where we inspire you to, be the best version of yourselves possible. Tonight, I'm so glad that you decided to kind of grace us with your presence this evening. Before we get into tonight's topic on can women have it all, I want to introduce our host organization. I do this all the time. I don't take for granted that people know who we are, who the host organization is, or what we do. So our host organization is Magnificent International Incorporated. It is a nonprofit organization. It's designated as a 501c3 organization by the Internal Revenue Service of the United States of America. So again, I'm Dr. Latanya Hughes. I am the founder and visionary for Magnificent. Our mission is really simple. It's going to sound very complicated when I say it, but it's really simple. And it is to systematically transform global communities by equipping citizens with life skills that will uplift them and their communities. We do this by motivating authentic citizens to be genuine, noble, and full of integrity, while learning financial responsibility to be independent and compassionate, living in excellence while navigating life's trials. It sounds like a mouthful, but hey, we make it work. So tonight's topic is one that hits home to so many of us as women, and I've had this conversation with several women before, and women the world over have a hard time kind of cracking through the glass ceiling at times. And on top of that, some women have to decide between personal and professional. Do I pursue my career or do I focus on my family? Although we as women have come a long way since women's liberation, we still have a ways to go. So tonight we're going to tackle this important topic because I really want us to get to the place where we don't have to decide between personal and professional, but rather we should be able to have it all. So let's go ahead and get started. So can women really have it all? I've really been pondering this question for a few weeks, and I believe women just all over the world have been wondering the same thing for many, many, many years. And I've been reading up on it, and here are a few points to consider when we start talking about whether or not women can have it all. So first of all, my question is who or what defines all? So let's look at Webster's definition of all for a moment. The full definition of all, according to Merriam-Webster, is the whole amount, quantity, or extent of, as much as possible, every member or individual component of, the whole number or sum of, every, any, whatever, nothing but, only, completely taken up with, given to, or absorbed by, having or seeming to have inconspicuous excess or prominence, paying full attention with, used up, entirely consumed, being more than one person or thing. Now, with all of that being said, what exactly is all to you? In one of the articles I read, the woman talked about all the things she still does, even though she stepped down from a high-ranking government position. People thought she was crazy. Folks said all kinds of stuff. And, it's all in perspective, and it's all relative to each of us because we're all unique and we're all different people. And, so I'm looking at the list of things that she says that she still does. She doesn't have this high-ranking government position that she used to have, that she stepped down from. But she still has this, we could probably call it a laundry list, but she has all of these other things that she's still doing. And as I look at her list, I'm thinking, you still do have it all. But all seems to be a matter of perspective. As I read one of the articles, the same woman took a look at role reversal, as at one point in her life, she was the one on the other side of the equation. She was the one judging other women for deciding to spend more time with their families, which is the very reason why she stepped down from her government position to spend more time with her family. You know, she had 2 teenage boys, they're, come on. I'm not a parent, but I know that when you have kids and they're active, you don't have time for a whole lot of stuff. You want to be there. And if your kids are teenagers, they're really into stuff. So you kind of understand, men don't always have to make those sacrificial decisions that women do. And so for this woman, for years, felt like, okay, I'm going to stick to my feminist beliefs and I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for it. And yet here she is years later making a decision to go against her feminist views to spend more time with her family. So again, with everything she still does, it seems to me that she still does have it all. But in her mind, I suppose she didn't. So, but then again, the question still points back to, is all really a matter of perspective? That could be a possibility of what the holdup might be, or why some women feel like they can't have it all versus those who feel like they can. It may be just that, a matter of perspective. Having it all seems to be a matter of timing as well. And I'll tell you why. In one particular article I read, the woman said that having it all at the same time is possible, just not today. And the reason she credits the inability to have it all at the same time in another time is due to the instability of the economy and the way society is structured. And I found that very interesting because I believe part of this has to do with the fact that Americans work too much. I mean, we take less vacations, we retire later, like we workaholics. And I'm going to show you this in a second. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported last year that more than 25 million Americans, that's 20.5% of the total workforce, worked at least 49 hours a week back in 1999. 11 million of those said they worked more than 59 hours a week. Now, let me ask you something. If they were doing that back in 1999, when the economy wasn't anything like, what it is now, what do you think is happening today? Why is this the case? I mean, let's talk about it. ABC News did a poll and found that only 26% of Americans feel they work too hard. That's a problem because something is wrong here. The percentage increases to about a third, 1/3 of people with kids or people between the ages of 35 and 54. Now, these figures could possibly be a little bit skewed because they don't take into account the consideration that the number of people who are working are part-time. So there are a lot of people working a bunch of part-time jobs to piecemeal one full-time or 2 full-time jobs. And there's a lot, again, that boils down, kind of circles back to the whole structure that the woman was talking about in the article about how society is structured today and even the workforce. So people are working more jobs to accumulate what they need. And perhaps that's why Americans work more. So let's look at, some other figures. According to the ILO, Americans work 137 more hours per year than Japanese workers. 260 more hours per year than British workers. And y'all gonna drop on this one. 499 more hours per year than French workers. That's 500 more hours per year than French workers. I'm going to let that sink in. That's a lot of excessive working hours. So what is contributing to all of this seeming productivity? Because just because you work a lot of hours doesn't mean that you're more productive. So one article stated that technology has made the economy massively more productive. So if technology has made us more productive, why are we working 4 times as harder and more than we did way back then? Something is off. I don't know if this is really the reason, or is it economics and financial inequality? That may be the reason people work more, specifically women. So listen to what one article says. A recent poll by Marketplace found that for half of hourly workers, their top concern isn't that they work too much, but that they work too little. And it's not, because they like their job so much, but it's because they need the money. For others who work a lot, and these are people who don't need the money because they have money in excess, they're rich. They do so because they really enjoy what they do. They work for the pleasure. They get meaning out of their jobs. They get satisfaction out of what they do. So what they do then is now an important part of how they think of themselves. So having it all seems to boil down to a commitment of time and perhaps need. But is that really all? For women, needs tend to supersede all. So let's talk about single mothers for a minute. Take a single mother. Many single mothers struggle to just find any kind of job at all. While there are, flexible work schedules available, all employers don't offer flexible work schedules. They're not, as lenient or even accommodating as we would like them to be, or they need to be for a lot of single mothers. Still, there are women who they're carrying the financial burden of the household because their husband can't find a job. That's a lot there. So you have a family, let's just say a family of 3, it's 2 adults and 1 child. Okay. Just imagine just barely making it on cost of living alone. That's a lot on a woman's plate. And so imagine how much she's going to push herself to the limit to not only meet the need, but possibly exceed it so she can have it all. Okay. Lots of women have jobs that don't even offer daycare. Okay. So that's another conundrum that some women have to solve, because if the job doesn't have daycare, the expenses of childcare loom over that woman's head, because now that's another expense. And now that's more stress. So now it's like, can I have it all when all seems to be out of my reach, because I have all of these circumstances that are stacked against me that makes that glass ceiling and what I want above that seem so much further away. I'm not even going to factor in the desire to go to school, because that takes in, that brings in another dimension, another layer of, I don't want to say it's an obstacle, but that's something that woman has to factor in and possibly overcome when everything else is already stacked against her. So with all of these factors and other things that I haven't even mentioned, the issue of all picture, she's so far behind the curve that all doesn't even seem like she can touch it. And so for women trying to have it all, perhaps the needs supersede all. So for these kind of women, it's now about holding on to what you already got. And for some women who are already holding on, they're holding on by a thread, and even some by a hair, because it's just wave after wave after wave. And it's just like, it's a constant onslaught. And it seems like all will never be a factor, because you're just trying to keep what you got, let alone add to it, have any type of abundance or extra or anything else that you want that can get you beyond just holding on and just getting by. So does all boil down to stress and equality? Perhaps. One of the articles I read stated that doctors have warned that a generation of women is at a breaking point and far more likely to experience work-related stress than men. So now let's take some of those other factors that I just talked about. We talked about daycare, lack of daycare, and the expenses of daycare. We talked about being a single parent. We talked about lack of flexible work schedules. We talked about being even with a spouse, but you're the only one working. So let's talk about some of those things that add stress, that compound stress on top of on the woman, and why she feels like she has to push herself so much more to just make it. If we're pushing ourselves as women just to make it, how much more do we have to push ourselves to go above just making it? The article I read, that same article goes on to state, figures from the Health and Safety Executive for 2014-15 show that the number of women experiencing strain balancing a career and family is 50% higher than for men the same age. Some 68,000 women aged 35 to 44 in the UK are stressed at work. Now, mind you, remember, Americans work way more. Let me go back to those statistics. We work 260 more hours per year than British workers. So if 68,000 women in the UK between the ages of 35 to 44 are stressed at work, what does that possibly look like for women in the United States who work 260 hours more than these women? So what kind of hours are these women working? That puts things in perspective for us. So why are women pushing themselves? Could women really be pushing themselves too hard? Testing the limits of their own resilience in pursuit of all. So let me pose another question to you. What will it take to bring about the necessary equality that women seek and need so they can have all, or at least their perception of all? Because let's face it, everybody doesn't have the same all. My all is not the same as your all. One woman's all might be something so simple as, I want a husband with my children, and I want to live in a good neighborhood, drive a nice car, want to be able to take 2 vacations per year, and I want to be a housewife. I want to volunteer my time. That's one person's all. And there's nothing wrong with that all. Another woman's all might say, I want my career and I want my family. I want to be a successful entrepreneur. I want 1% of the market of whatever my industry is. And, I want to be able to have a husband and, possibly children. And, another woman might say, I want all of that plus a dog. Another woman might say, I don't even want none of that. I just want me. I want my career. I want my dog. I want some fish. I want whatever. And that's it. We all have different alls. Another woman might say, I want to be a world changer. I want to go around and I want to fight for injustice, and whether it's women, children, the sick, the elderly, whatever it is, that might be her all. we all have different perspectives of what all is. It doesn't mean that one is more right or better than the next person. It just means that, you know what? It's like a field goal. And all is everything in between. But for some reason, as wide as that field goal is, there's always something that may prevent you from hitting the mark in between that field goal space. And sometimes you might just hit the pole and it'll knock you out. It could be wind turbulence. It could be anything keeping you from all. So all is a matter, to me, I believe all is a matter of perspective and how we approach that perspective. And there's also a lot of outside external factors and forces that are affecting women from achieving their all. For me, I believe a change in leadership is in order. And when I say that, I don't mean just get rid of everybody, because that's just not even realistic. But a change in leadership is not a tall order. I mean, it's not like it's small. I mean, it's not like, oh, we can just go do this tomorrow. It's not like you can go in and just clean house and just automatically it's just going to be new. It's not that simple. Sheryl Sandberg says this. She says, women are not making it to the top. There are 190 heads of state, and 9 of them are women. 190. 9 are women. Of all the people in parliament in the entire world, in the world, because there's a lot of parliaments in this world, 13% are women. 13%. In the corporate sector, the share of women at the top, and we're talking C-level jobs, board seats, that kind of thing, tops out at 15-16%. These are some sad statistics. That's why I say, yes, we have come a long way since women's liberation and suffrage and all of that. And I'm not taking away from it, because yes, we have made some strides. But this information right here tells me we've got a long way to go. Now, am I saying that all women don't aspire to be leaders? All women don't aspire to this, but you can't tell me that there aren't women who do. And there are more women who do. I guarantee, I've talked to some. So I know that there are women who aspire for these roles, but who's giving them a chance? Let me explain something. When you start getting into business, it's still a man's world. And you know, as women, we have to climb. We have to shut it down, and we have to let it be known that just because you see estrogen doesn't mean estrogen equals stupid, or that estrogen is less than, or that we don't know as much. If anything, women have proven themselves to be better leaders and better business people, to make better business decisions in some cases, but it's a mindset. It's navigating that field and having the tenacity to keep pounding and to keep going and giving it your all until you just break that glass ceiling and get rid of it once and for all. And it takes some women to pioneer that. And the thing about pioneering for other people is there is no precedent. You are the person setting the precedent. And so there's a weight on your shoulders. And so in pursuit of all, for some women, there's a greater burden or responsibility or weight, because you're paving the way for others that you don't even know, that you may never even meet. And that's huge. So I don't believe the reason why these statistics are low is because of a lack of ambition. I just really refuse to believe that there aren't more women out there who want more, who want all in this regard. You know, who want all in the, you know, executive C-level, whose all is just so big that goalposts don't even exist. You know, it's just, again, it's perspective. I believe the women who do want these particular positions, who want this level of all, lack the resources. They lack access to resources that will get them where they need to be to effectively pursue their all. So you can have a strategy, but you need resources to be able to kind of gain ground and to leverage that yourself in order to kind of implement that strategy. So, I believe with a big enough footprint, a loud enough voice, and the right amount of influence, the right woman or the right women can change the face of the workforce. So women the world over can have it all. I believe we are in the right time for it. Millennials, man, they're changing the face of society. I mean, they're breaking societal norms. I mean, they're just breaking down barriers left and right. And so I just wonder who's rallying with them to push their efforts so that more women can have it all. I mean, this is like a fearless generation. They're charging in guns blazing, and they're really they're really about grassroots. They're about interpersonal skills and knocking on doors and really getting in touch with other people to get to the heart of the matter. And I really kind of applaud them tenacity to go forward and to say, I don't care what you think, and I don't care what previous generations thought about this. I'm not going to let that define me. I want a better future for my kids and my kids' kids. And so they're really going for, they're thinking long term. And I applaud that. I think we need a healthy balance between the two. And so can women have it all? I mean, ladies, the truth is you can have it all. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't have it all. It might seem impossible. It might seem like all is out of your reach. Trust me, I personally feel like all is out of my reach, but I don't give up because I know that I can have it all. I had a conversation today with a really good friend, and she said to me, she says, you have a clear vision in your head what something looks like it's there, you can say it, but you can see it here, but you're down here. And the problem that you have, the frustration is getting to here when you're down here, because down here it's like you're not moving when you can clearly see the vision is up here. And I think for a lot of women that might be the frustration of your all. You see the all, but you're down here, and all this gap in between where you are to all creates the frustration because you can see it, but you have no idea how to touch it and get there. And even if you do, it's like you need the resources, and the resources just aren't there. There's all different kinds of reasons why all is out of our reach, or why we feel like we'll never get to all, or even for those who feel like they can't see all or all of their all, they just see a glimmer. I don't care how much of your all you can see. I don't care if, okay, we're going to, this is an old school candy, y'all. Okay, we're going to take this candy. I don't care if you can't see this much. If all you can see of your all is this much, you hold on to this. I don't care if all you can see is this white part. If everything goes and all you can see is this white part of your all, hold on to that white part, because eventually that's going to keep you encouraged and motivated to push until you can see this. And that's going to encourage you and motivate you to push until you can see that. Until eventually, my other girlfriend said to me, she says, don't try to take the whole mountain. Take a little bit at a time. When you look at the whole mountain, you're going to feel overwhelmed. You're going to feel like you're never making any progress, but just take a little bit at a time. And that same week, she told me that I saw this great reminder of how do you eat the elephant? One little bit at a time, one piece at a time. One chunk at a time, until next thing you know, the whole thing is gone. What am I saying to you? You can have it all. Don't ever give up on your all, because just because you only see a little bit, even if it's just a glimmer and it feels like it's never going to happen, don't give up. And this is where you've got to have a network and a support system that's going to help keep that in perspective, to keep your vision, to keep your passion in front of you. All is a matter of perspective. I said this earlier. My all is not your all. Your all is not your sister's all. But, you know, you can have it all, but you have to consider the timing of what that all is. You know, are you prepared to have it all? Do you have a support system to have it all? I mean, do you have folks lined up who can say, you know what, don't give up. I know it seems like it's not going to happen, but it's going to happen. Have you considered this? Have you thought about this? What resources, you know, do you have a support system? If you're married, does your spouse support your all? And if not, is counseling an option? Why do they not support your all? Is it because your all conflicts with their all? You know, you got to have that open conversation. I don't know what that means, but if you've got to have a support system. You know, you need friends. And I'm not talking about a bunch of yes people, because a bunch of yes people will probably send you into a hole somewhere, because that's not going to help you. They'll encourage you, but that's not going to push you forward. You need people who are going to challenge you when you get stuck in a rut, when you feel like you can't go anymore, when you get complacent, when you get comfortable. You need a support system that says, wait a minute, you forgot your all. You only looking at this part and you're settling for this much of your all. What happened to this part of the all when all you're doing is settling for this? You need a support system that lets you know that the whole is better than a part, and to never ever give up on your all. It seems like, I'm telling you, you can't, you can possibly get the all on your own, but I'm telling you, it's going to be a journey. Without some type of support system, without some group, without some people who can say, listen here, sister, girlfriend, sugar, whatever they call you, listen, okay, you've been here too long. I remember when you said, da 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 da. You need people who can catch your vision and run with it and help you get there. You got to have a support system. Otherwise, all is really going to always seem like it's out of your reach. Part of your support system provides resources for you. What's those resources? Knowledge, information, ideas, you know, stuff that you don't even think about, that you probably haven't considered. Because let's face it, women, we have 90 million things running in our mind. We got to figure out what we going to eat, what we going to wear, how we going to do what we got to do. We got to balance our schedules, kids' schedules, spouse schedule. We got to figure out how our volunteer is going to work in. We got to figure out how we going to get our all. If we in school, we got to balance schoolwork. If we got a project at work, if we trying to get a promotion, if we got our minds don't shut off. And so sometimes with all of that running through our minds, and some of us have ideas racing through our minds, even in our sleep, and it's like trying to capture that is hard. And so it's like, okay, wait, you need a support system that can say, wait a minute, slow down. You need to meditate a little bit. You got to clear some of that out. You're doing a little bit too much. You're pulled. We're constantly pulled in a lot of different directions. And I just want to drop this nugget to you about multitasking. When you're multitasking, you're really not multitasking. I know we like to think that we're multitasking, but there's some. Let me pull up some research for you, because I did some research on multitasking. I'm telling you, this just kind of just changed my whole mindset about multitasking. When I saw this, it was a news report that said that when you're multitasking, you're really not multitasking. It was just really, it was really profound to me. I gotta find it. I'm telling you, it was interesting. It was some good stuff, because I was like, wait, what? Wait, what? Do you mean to tell me that when I'm multitasking, I'm not really multitasking? I'm just kind of flailing around, and I'm not really accomplishing anything. And at the beginning, I was like, no, I don't really believe that. But then, if you really start thinking about it, you're really splitting yourself off. And so, where you think you're multitasking, you're not really accomplishing as much as you think you are. Okay, so here it is. Okay, first of all, multitasking is considered rude, depending on, but it can also cause you to miss important things. A CNN report shows, oh my goodness, I just lost it. Anyway, this is what happens when you close out of something. A CNN report shows when we are multitasking, we are actually not multitasking. And this is Dr. Sanjay Gupta who said this. So just so y'all, this is a credible source. Now, he says you're not actually doing both activities at the same time. In fact, you're now diverting your attention from one part of your brain to another part of your brain. That takes time, that takes resources, that takes brain cells. What happens on the other side of the brain is that you're starting a brand new activity. So in fact, you're probably slower and not nearly as good at doing both activities at the same time. So I know y'all might be thinking, okay, but I got to juggle the kids and I got to juggle this and I'm cooking and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And it seems very efficient. But sometimes when you're multitasking, you're really not, because you're splitting your focus, and that's really what he's talking about. And so in pursuit of all, a lot of times we think we have to multitask, because if we're multitasking, we get the job done, and I got so much done. But how much more could you have gotten done if you had just allotted specific time? I don't care if you have to stretch one project out over the course of a couple of days, rather than trying to get it all done in one day and doing 57 different things at one time, and then you make a mistake because you're rushing and you're cramming, trying to get it all in, and you don't have time to proof. You don't have time to look at it. You don't have time to make sure you check everything, because you're doing so much that you just think that I got it, I did it, and boom, 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 boom. Because that to-do list seems like it's never, ever, ever going away. So in pursuit of all, we overwhelm ourselves because we want to get so much done, because we're trying to get to all. In pursuit of all, I don't want us as women to lose sight of the bigger picture, which is living life. Some of us pursue all so much that we're not enjoying our families. We're not enjoying, I mean, you might work and you may not have all of your all at the same time. But if you spend your entire life pursuing all at the same time, you're going to miss the all, the part of the all that you got. So if part of your all is I want a husband, you're going to miss enjoying your husband in pursuit of the next part, which is I want kids. Enjoy your husband, and the kids will come. If the next part is I want a husband, kids, and a dog, why can't the dog come before the kids? I mean, I'm going to try to be funny, but I mean, come on. What about, I want all of these things we're constantly pursuing, but we don't keep all in perspective. And so I'm just saying, keep it in perspective, because you don't want to rush and be stressed out because, I'm getting older, I'm getting this and this and that and that and that. And now you're in a rat race. And now the all you want is unappreciated. It's sitting over here. Like, okay, I'm here, but it's not enough. So keep that in perspective, and I really want you, to think about, do you have a plan for your all? What is it really going to take for you to have it all? And what is your expected timeline for all? In having it all, you've got to be realistic. I mean, you got to think about those external factors and work smarter. We've got to use everything at our disposal to gain access to the resources we need to pursue all. And, one of the things as women, we think we're superwoman, we're superhuman, We know it all, and yes, we're very intuitive and we're smart creatures. We're very smart people. Yes, we live in the age of Google. Information is at our fingertips. But there are some things we just got to ask. And there are some things that women, we just sometimes don't want to ask. Now, it's just kind of like men don't like to ask for directions. For some reason, it seems like men are allergic to asking for directions, like they got an internal GPS that just always works. We have to face at times, women, there are some things that we need to ask. And one of the things that we are not good at doing is asking for help. And that's where we've got to improve. In pursuit of all, we cannot neglect help. And when help is extended or offered to us, we've got to be willing to say yes and receive that help. So just a few things about whether women can have it all. I personally believe we can. I want to just keep pressing, and don't think that you can't have it all, because you can. Again, all is a matter of perspective. My all is not your all. It's not the next person's all, or whatever. So just kind of think about that and keep that in the forefront of your mind as far as what your all is. What does your all encompass, and how are you going to achieve that all? Who do you need? What kind of resources do you need for all? And just go for it. So I just want to thank you for tuning in tonight. I really hope something was shared, to help you gain a little bit of clarity and possibly some revelation on your own all, and whether or not you can have it, and when a good time for you to have it all is. Maybe you can't handle the totality of your all, but you can handle pieces of your all on separate occasions. I think the main thing is being grateful and enjoying the parts of your all that you are receiving at a specific time in your life. And that kind of helps let that fuel you and give you what you need. I'm not saying to park there. Don't park there. But let that kind of be, your passion. Let that fuel you. Let that kind of drive you to say, I'm going to enjoy this. But I know that because I got this, I know I definitely can get the next part of my all, the next part of my all. The next thing you know, it's like, oh, wow. And so, don't compare your all to the next person's. Because, again, we're all unique. We're all different. So, I do believe that we can personally, this is just me. I can't speak for anybody else. But for me, I believe women can't have it all. Just keep your all in perspective, and please don't compare your all to another person's, because again, we're all unique. Your all is not my all, and because we all have different desires. There are some women I met who don't want to get married. I have a college roommate who she just never wanted to get married. She's like, ain't nobody ever. And so it's like, okay, all doesn't include marriage for her. I have another friend who, doesn't want a house. She just wants to live in a condo or a townhouse or, apartment. Her all doesn't include all of that. And that's okay. We're all different. We don't, some folks don't want all of that. And that's okay. Don't compare your all to another person's, and don't judge another person's all. Because again, we're all different. We're all unique. And just keep in mind, what it takes another person to achieve their all is not necessarily what it's going to take for you to achieve your all. Again, because all of our alls are different, and it's all about perspective. So I really hope you take something away on tonight's subject on can women have it all. Again, I believe that we can have it all. It's just we've got to keep it in perspective. We've got to kind of just just have a support system, have a plan, but be realistic at the same time. And more importantly, don't kowtow to what society says or anybody else says about your all. You are, I believe we are women hear us roar. If you're a feminist, don't feel like because you choose family and your family values that you're less of a feminist. Because I'm telling you, we are seeing a rejuvenation, a regeneration, a return of familial values to society. And I'm telling you, it's going to be at the forefront. I believe it's at the forefront of a lot of the activism that's going on, just not just aside from the racial issues that we're seeing around the world, but I just really believe we're seeing a return of family values, and people, just men and women, are seeing that there's a value. You have more men staying home, more men getting involved in families because they understand the importance of family and unity. And so don't feel like you've got to choose, because you don't. The important thing is, do you have partnership in your all? Thank you so very much for tuning in tonight. In our next episode, I'm going to be revisiting one of our earlier episodes. I know y'all like, why she keep revisiting? But I'm telling y'all, this is bothering me. So I'm going to be revisiting our episode on why women can't be friends, because this is a big issue. And, my girlfriend and I have been talking about it. It's just we're seeing a pattern of behavior. And one of the things I'm seeing that we need to get to the bottom of is the lack of respect women have for one another. Why can't we respect one another enough to have friendships? So we just got to get to the bottom of it. So thank you again so much for tuning in. Until next time, love and light. Thanks again, and have a wonderful night.